Welcome to our guide on navigating United States citizenship for children born abroad. First, we'll lay out the core pathways, highlight eligibility requirements, and explain how to document a parent's physical presence in the United States. Then, we'll dive into the Consular Report of Birth Abroad, or CRBA, which is the most direct route. After that, we'll unpack what to do if the American parent does not meet the physical presence requirements, including the grandparent route via Form N-600K. Finally, we'll outline common pitfalls, timelines, and practical tips, and we will finish with an engaging summary and call to action. Here is our roadmap. First, we cover eligibility basics. Next, we'll walk through the CRBA process. Then we'll focus on proving physical presence. After that, we'll examine the grandparent route using Form N-600K. We will then discuss timelines and pitfalls, followed by a couple of short quizzes to test understanding, and conclude with next steps. Before we proceed, a disclaimer. This presentation is educational in nature and does not constitute legal advice. Immigration and citizenship rules change and can be highly fact-specific. Always verify with official government sources, such as the Department of State and the USCIS Policy Manual, and consult a qualified attorney for advice on your circumstances. With that in mind, let's continue. Let's define eligibility. A child born outside the U.S. may acquire citizenship at birth through a U.S. citizen parent if statutory requirements are satisfied. The most important element is the American parent's physical presence in the United States for a total of 5 years, with at least 2 of those years occurring after the parent's 14th birthday. If that standard is met, the child typically qualifies for citizenship at birth, and the CRBA is the vehicle to document it. Applying for the child's first U.S. passport at the same time is recommended for efficiency. If the parent does not satisfy physical presence requirements, there is an alternative strategy in limited circumstances: the grandparent route, often using Form N-600K. Note that the child's citizenship process is separate from any immigration process for a non-U.S. citizen spouse, which would require a marriage-based green card. To streamline any pathway, begin collecting evidence. Early school transcripts, employment records, leases, tax records, and travel histories are helpful. In brief, the CRBA documents citizenship at birth when the requirements are met, whereas Form N-600K can leverage a U.S. citizen grandparent's qualifying presence when the parent's presence falls short. This diagram maps the primary decision points. We start by confirming that at least one parent is a U.S. citizen. If not, the child does not have a claim under these rules and would need to consider other immigration pathways. If the parent is a U.S. citizen, we assess physical presence, a total of 5 years in the U.S., with at least 2 years after the parent turned 14. If that requirement is met, the recommended route is filing a CRBA and applying for the child's first U.S. passport at a U.S. embassy or consulate. If the requirement is not met, we check whether a U.S. citizen grandparent has sufficient physical presence and whether the child is eligible under the N-600K statute, which can allow the grandparent's presence to count. That route may require the child to travel to the United States to complete the naturalization process. If neither parent nor grandparent presence can satisfy the rules, then the child's citizenship is not automatic, and the family may consider alternative long-term immigration or future naturalization options. Evidence gathering is critical at each point to substantiate the presence requirements. Let's walk through the CRBA process step by step. First, confirm eligibility and gather your documents, especially proof of the U.S. citizen parent's status and physical presence. Next, book a combined appointment for the CRBA and the child's first U.S. passport at the nearest U.S. embassy or consulate. Then, complete the required forms: DS-2029 for the CRBA, DS-11 for the child's passport, and DS-5507 if you need to document parentage and physical presence. Bring original documents and copies to prove the U.S. citizen parent's status, the relationship to the child, and the physical presence history. Attend the interview. Note that some posts request both parents or a notarized consent via DS-3053 if one parent cannot attend. Pay the required fees and ensure photos meet the specifications. Monitor the case for any requests for additional evidence and respond quickly. Finally, once approved, you will receive the CRBA and the child's first U.S. passport. Now let's focus on proving physical presence. The goal is to demonstrate 5 total years in the United States, including 2 years after the U.S. citizen parent turned 14. Emphasize official and contemporaneous records. Strong evidence includes school transcripts, W-2s, tax returns, pay stubs, leases, and utility bills. For travel history, compile passport stamps, I-94 records, boarding passes, and any available itineraries. If you have gaps, you may supplement with sworn affidavits, but support them with documentary evidence. Organize everything chronologically, label it clearly, and use a checklist and a timeline to identify and fix gaps before your interview. Consider maintaining an evidence index and a short summary timeline to help the consular officer quickly understand your history. Quiz time. Which statement best describes the CRBA? Option A. It is a visa that lets a child enter the United States. Option B. It is the official record that a child acquired U.S. citizenship at birth abroad. Option C. It is the process for a spouse's green card. Option D. It replaces all need for a passport. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is B. The CRBA is the official record that a child acquired U.S. citizenship at birth while abroad. It is not a visa, it is not related to a spouse's green card, and it does not eliminate the need for a passport. Moving on, let's look at the grandparent route. If the U.S. citizen parent does not satisfy physical presence requirements, a U.S. citizen grandparent's physical presence may satisfy the requirement under specific provisions, commonly filed via Form N-600K. This path is more complex than the CRBA route and may require the child to travel to the United States lawfully to complete the process. It generally must be completed before the child's 18th birthday. Always verify current eligibility rules and procedures with the USCIS policy manual and official guidance. This timeline outlines the major milestones for the N-600K route. First, determine eligibility by confirming that the U.S. citizen parent is short on physical presence, but that a U.S. citizen grandparent has the required presence. Next, collect evidence of the grandparent's physical presence, similar to the evidence categories we discussed earlier. Then, file the N-600K with USCIS and respond to any biometrics appointments or requests for additional evidence. Once the case is scheduled, the child will typically need to travel lawfully to the United States for the interview and oath. The process must be completed before the child turns 18. Planning travel, lawful entry, and documentation logistics is essential for a smooth conclusion. Let's troubleshoot common pitfalls. First, many families overlook the requirement that at least 2 of the 5 total years of physical presence occur after the U.S. citizen parent turns 14. Second, remember that a spouse's immigration case is separate and does not directly assist the child's citizenship claim. Third, waiting too long can make evidence collection much harder. Fourth, affidavits are weaker when they are not supported by documentary evidence. Fifth, each consulate may have particular appointment and document procedures. Verify these before booking. Sixth, remember logistical items such as passport photos, parental consent forms like DS-3053 if only one parent can attend, and necessary translations. Finally, always check the latest official manuals and updates before filing. To manage complexity, build a document index and create a plan to fill any gaps before your appointment. Here is a practical document checklist. You will need proof of the U.S. citizen parent's status, such as a U.S. passport or naturalization certificate. You must document the parent-child relationship, usually with the local birth certificate and supporting hospital records, accompanied by certified translations if necessary. Demonstrate physical presence using transcripts, W-2s, leases, and utility bills, organized chronologically and clearly labeled. Ensure identity documents for both the child and parents are ready, and that photos meet consular specifications. Prepare forms such as DS-2029, DS-11, DS-5507, and DS-3053 if only one parent can attend. Lastly, confirm fee amounts and payment methods with the official website. Let's compare the 2 main routes. The CRBA applies when the U.S. citizen parent meets the statutory physical presence rules. It is filed at a U.S. embassy or consulate abroad and typically results in a CRBA and the child's first U.S. passport, often with fewer steps and no need for the child to travel to the United States for an oath. In contrast, The N-600K pathway is for cases where the parent lacks sufficient physical presence, but a U.S. citizen grandparent can meet the requirement. This route is filed with USCIS and often requires the child's lawful entry to the United States for the interview and oath, culminating in a certificate of citizenship. It is generally more complex, can take longer, and must be completed before the child turns 18. Second quiz. True or false? The child's citizenship process automatically helps a non-U.S. citizen spouse receive a green card. Option A, true. Option B, false. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is B, false. The child's citizenship process is separate from the non-U.S. citizen spouse's green card process. The spouse would need to pursue a marriage-based immigration route, which is a different procedure with its own timelines and requirements. Here are the key takeaways. First, when the U.S. citizen parent meets the required physical presence, the CRBA is the way to document citizenship at birth. Second, proving physical presence is often the most challenging step, so start early and be thorough. Third, if the parent does not meet the requirement, the N-600K route may allow a qualifying U.S. citizen grandparent's presence to count. Fourth, remember that the child's citizenship process is distinct from a spouse's green card process. Finally, always consult official government sources and consider professional legal advice. As we wrap up, here are your next steps. First, check eligibility against the 5-year rule, including 2 years after age 14. Next, build an evidence index and chronological timeline now. Then, book your CRBA and passport appointment at the nearest U.S. consulate. If the parent is short on presence, evaluate N-600K eligibility using a U.S. citizen grandparent's physical presence. Continue to monitor official Department of State and USCIS guidance before filing. Finally, plan the non-U.S. citizen spouse's immigration process separately and early. Thank you for watching. If this guide helped you, please like the video, share it with other expatriate parents, and subscribe for more practical walkthroughs. We would love to hear your questions and experiences in the comments. Your insights can help others in the community. See you in the next one.